Welcome to episode 67 of Think Big with Michael Zellner. All positive, no politics. My guest today is Tina Rodgers. Tina is the owner of Rockin' Closet, a trendy, affordable online fashion boutique that specializes in clothing for women and children. She is a senior public relations specialist at FedEx Express and has been with the company for over 21 years. She received her associate's degree in business administration from Hines Community College and her Bachelor of Science degree in paralegal studies at Mississippi College. She is also a breast cancer survivor, and we will talk a lot about that today. Welcome to the show, Tina.
I'm glad to be here, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Tell us something interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
That I was born in the city that is known for Hormel, which is called Spam Town, USA, in Austin, Minnesota. They actually have a Spam museum in my town that it went anywhere from about 6,000 to about 8,000 people. So most people think I'm from the South, but I'm actually from Austin, Minnesota.
How did you end up going from Minnesota to Mississippi?
My dad's a minister, and we had a church in Minnesota that was very small, and he and my mom wanted to be able to do missions and be able to afford to do that. And so he went to Bible school with his best friend that lived in Jackson, Mississippi. And so we moved when I was 13 from Minnesota to Mississippi for church and to follow God's lead.
Awesome. You went to Forest Hill High School in Jackson, Mississippi, home of the Patriots. What are some of your better memories of your high school years?
Well, you can call it home of the Patriots. We were actually the Rebels.
Oh, it's changed.
Okay. Just like it did for Ole Miss. And everybody knows why that is. And that's
Yes.
Okay. But I will always be a Forest Hill Rebel. We were the first class to graduate in the new school. So we had a brand new school. It was beautiful, just built, started in the middle of my freshman year into the new school. And just cheering and meeting people. I was still fairly new. We moved when I was in junior high, and I was still kind of getting my feet wet and learning the culture in the South versus being from Minnesota. It was a lot different. Just the people, the personalities, how we lived. And of course, our life changed tremendously going from such a small town to a really large town. But my memories in Jackson were very fond. It kind of rooted us in the South and made me call the South home. So I'm always grateful for my years in high school and growing up in Jackson.
While you were in paralegal studies at Mississippi College, you were in Phi Theta Kappa. You were also listed in Who's Who Among American College Students. And, to be members of both of those is a big honor and is only for someone who excels in academics and extracurricular activities. You obviously worked very hard in school. Where did you develop such a great work ethic at such a pretty young age?
I think and being very graceful when I say this, my parents were both ministers. My mom didn't preach, but she kind of followed my dad's footsteps, and he led with God, and we kind of lived our family that way and led by faith. We didn't really have very much. And so when we moved to the South, it was obviously for a better life, but I also recognized what it meant to work and having to earn the things that you have, even if it's not very much. And so, our foundation was more on love than a lot of things. And I appreciated that. But I knew at a very early age that I was going to get a job and be able to help contribute to my family and make sure that I had my own money. So I started working when I was in 10th grade at a law firm. My neighbor was a prominent attorney in Jackson, Mississippi. My plans were initially to go to law school. He took me kind of under his wing, and I actually worked there pretty much until I was graduating college, when I started another law firm. But I never went from the age I could have a job. I never went without a job. And I always, I worked full time while I was in college, got married in college, had my son in college, got those accolades while working full time with a son while in college. And I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to do all that and keep my grades up while being a young woman, just kind of learning life to start. So it just kind of was instilled in me early on that, you got to contribute to what you have. And so I took that very seriously, and it's kind of led me through life to where I am now.
You should be really proud because what you did and accomplished, that's awesome. So you should be really proud of yourself.
Thank you.
I believe that firm you were talking about was Watkins and Eager in Jackson, Mississippi. And
Yep.
I know you worked there for a little bit over 6 years, and you were also vice president of education of the Mississippi Association of Legal Assistants. What did you enjoy most about those experiences, and what did you learn from it?
I always liked volunteering, and I was part of like Junior League and Habitat for Humanity. And I feel like being a part of something bigger than just your regular job allows you to contribute to other people. I was able to support the Bar Association too with their events, which is all the attorneys that we supported as paralegals. So just bringing people with my mindset and my education together to further educate us and bond us, not just in the Jackson area, but all across the state, was something that I really appreciated being part of. And it helped me or afforded me part of the reason I got the career that I have now at FedEx is because of my external activities and organizations that I was part of. So I'm, obviously very grateful for being able to do something like that led me to where I am now.
About a year after you left the firm, your family moved to Memphis, where, as you said, you didn't know anyone at the time. You started now working, you've been there for over 21 years, I guess 21 years and 10 months so far at FedEx as a senior employment litigation specialist is where you started. It was a big position, that you were managing, I believe, 12 states in the U.S. Western regions. Were you pretty excited for this new challenge?
Yeah, and actually I worked at Watkins and Eager until the day I moved.
Oh, did you? Okay.
They actually didn't want me to leave and were trying to encourage me to stay. And I love everybody there, just like I did when I took the job at FedEx. But yeah, we moved here, did not know a single person, no family. Our son was 3, completely rooting ourselves in a different state. But my husband at the time transferred us here with FedEx, and that's what brought us to Memphis. And yeah, I mean, when I first came here, it was a little bit overwhelming. I knew FedEx as a package shipper. I knew the boxes came to my door. I knew it was large in Memphis, but I had no idea the magnitude that it would have on my family and what a tremendous role it would play in my life, both professionally and personally. I have FedEx family all over the world, not just in the US. It's allowed me to watch my son grow. It's allowed me to participate in all of his sports. It's taken me on travels, places I would have never been. And I would have never thought that it would be that with FedEx, but that's been all plus some. And I'm incredibly grateful for FedEx and what it's allowed my family and myself personally and professionally.
You once said, quote, "When it's raining, it's your choice to shine. Do that," unquote. I know that is something that you do. No matter what obstacles that you're facing, it seems that you choose to look at the positive side. It's such a wonderful quality to have. How do you keep smiling?
We didn't start out with a whole lot. Like I said, my foundation was based on faith with God first. I lost my mom when I was 19 and almost my dad 6 months later. So that was the first time I was actually challenged with questioning faith and how it got you here. I got through that. And then, fast forward to 2020 when I got breast cancer unexpectedly. And I was, kind of refused to say that I was going to leave my son at the age that I lost my mom. So, I know that we all have struggles. We all have our certain way of dealing with things. But for me, the only way for me to get through those is to try to help encourage others and say that it's okay. The way that you handle things is kind of the way your life turns out. And everything that's happened to me, my mom dying early, which was incredibly sad and scary. And then almost losing my dad where I almost had no parents. And then knowing that, I got married in college and had a kid and came out perfectly fine and moved to another state. Now I know thousands of people here. It truly is all about the way you face adversity and how you take that on and how you encourage others. That has a tendency to make your life better because you know that it's going to influence other people to be happy and live their life, in a positive way too. So I've never looked at any of the struggles. And maybe immediately I did, but once I could get a handle on where things were going in the hard times, it just made me recognize that I'm blessed to be here and every day of life is a gift. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to spread happy. And that's what I try to do in everything that I do.
And I can't imagine losing your mom at such a young age. And I know that had to be so difficult for you. And I know you're lucky, you're glad that you still have your dad around. I believe he's about 74 now. Is that right?
He is. Yep.
So that's, at least I'm glad that he's here for you.
Thank you.
Just a few months after you started at FedEx, you began, I believe, a second position there as a senior public relations specialist, your current position. I read all the responsibilities you had with your first job. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's very apparent you have a strong work ethic, but how in the world were you able to, it seems like when I was looking at it, that you had both positions at the same time. How were you able to handle that?
Actually, I was at FedEx for about 8 years before I switched positions. And it was because I was traveling 2 or 3 months at a time for trials, and my son was 3 and we had no family. And, my husband was working at the time, and I didn't want him to have to fully support my son while I was working. And it wasn't, my job was not as important as my family was. So I elected to put in for another position. And like I said, with the Paralegal Association, Junior League, and Habitat for Humanity, and volunteering with Special Olympics and all the external charities that I support, allowed me to have the skills that it required for the role of the public relations. At the time, it was actually in the strategic customer support department. And then I kind of got evolved into the public relations role. So I was doing those external activities while I was in litigation, but it was actually a second role that I applied for and beat out. I can't even remember how many people, but it was a lot. So I was incredibly grateful because my experience was really just in the legal field, other than things that I did externally outside of FedEx. And so I was grateful that they allowed that to roll into this job, because it's literally given me so many joys, personally and professionally. And FedEx affords a lot of people that, but it meant a lot to me, especially through the course of my career and how it's progressed.
Even handling just one position with all the responsibilities that I saw that you had, that was pretty incredible to do that, balance that with family and everything. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
You said, quote, "My life is full of blessings. I thank God every day for a wonderful family, awesome friends, a great job, and the best life I could hope for. Hard not to be grateful when you're so blessed. And I truly am," unquote. I love reading that because I know there's so many people who are blessed like you, but sometimes they just can't see it and they focus on the negatives instead of realizing how good they have it. And, I'm not getting all religious or anything, but is your faith and your belief in God is what's helped you to get through so many things that you faced?
Absolutely. We started our days and meals and everything with prayers, and we've shared our adversity and our family. And, even with my dad being in the preacher's role, you're always looked at publicly, and people want to find the negative and positive people for whatever reason. I don't know if it feels like they uplift them more, but it certainly doesn't. And, coming from a humble background with not a lot, and moving here to support God and be able to outreach and things like that, I think it's made me recognize that, there are a lot of things that people go through, but if you put your faith in God and trust in Him and understand that things happen, and it may not be what you think it is, but eventually you'll see why, that it just makes things a lot easier to handle even in the hard times.
In April of 2021, there was a horrible situation that happened at FedEx ground facility, where 8 people were shot and killed up in Indianapolis. And, the FedEx family, pulled together when this happened, and you were a big part of that. You received a letter from Fred Smith, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Raj Subramaniam. Okay,
Yep.
sorry.
That's
It read, "Dear Tina Rodgers, thank you for your actions in the wake of the tragedy on April 15th in Indianapolis. It's one of the most difficult moments in our company's history. You played a critical role in our response and how we supported our team members. There are no words to fully express our gratitude, but simply put, you displayed the very best of our company values. Thank you for the dedication you showed in the hours and days following the tragic event. You were quick to lend your expertise and your compassion. Please continue to keep the Indianapolis team and surrounding communities in your thoughts. With sincere gratitude, Fred and Raj," unquote. Even though what you did is not about receiving letters and receiving accolades for it, because, you were there to help people that desperately needed it. It does have to be nice knowing that you are appreciated by the leaders of your company.
Absolutely. We've got a program. Fred Smith was in the military. I'm sorry for the background.
You're fine.
noise.
It's okay.
Fred Smith was in the military, and so all of our awards, when we're giving one by that level of executive leadership, is called a Bravo Zulu, and that just means you went above and beyond, and whatever your role is, or you were tasked with at that particular time. And I always say the money that you get attached to that letter with the BZ is so much less significant than the letter itself. Money can do a lot of things, but it doesn't buy happiness, and it doesn't bring you joy, and it doesn't tell you how people feel about how you made them feel. And I've been so blessed to get a lot of BZs in my career for various different things. And I will still go back to, I got a Wilson Award a couple years ago with the National Truck Driving Championship that's voted on by all of our truck drivers and leadership for servant leadership. And it's a ball with a handprint on it with signatures from truck drivers from all over the country. And I can tell you, there was no money attached to it. Nobody probably would have ever known it if they weren't there to witness it or see my videos or posts on social media. But I can tell you that's the best award I've ever been given in my entire life. And it has nothing to do with financial gain. It's truly about helping others and making their jobs easier because you're a part of it. And I am so grateful for that.
Speaking of leadership, you said, quote, "If you don't think our founder leads by example, you haven't yet met mine. Leaders are not just made, they are born that way." Thank you, FWS, Fred Smith, for being the incredible and selfless leader that you are. You're the reason I'm inspired to do better, do more, and fearlessly serve, unquote. Fred Smith did something, pretty amazing for the company that he built from an idea in college. Would you please, share with the audience, what he did to help the company, why he did it, and what that showed you?
Well, we were, he had the vision of what it was going to be or what he wanted to be, or what he wanted our future to be when he was in college. Clearly, I don't even think I was born then because it was shortly thereafter, but everybody was a naysayer. They all said it would never happen. They all, thought he was ridiculous and it was never going to work. And even when we got to our lowest point and he had to go, as most people have read, to a casino and say, "If you guys stick with me and I come back with money, I'll pay your salary and we'll keep on trucking." And I say trucking because that's part of what we do. But that's exactly what he did. And fortunately for us, those leaders that stayed with him from the beginning, a lot of them I've had the privilege of retiring recently just because of the age of our company. And they stayed, from people that were handling packages in the hub to vice president to chief diversity officers. Those people that he brought with him, he kept his promise to. And that's why we always say it's the purple promise, that we will do everything we can to make our customers' experiences outstanding. And it's the same for our employees. He truly, gives to all of us. And I know that, I speak for myself and my family, but I know that there's hundreds of thousands of people of all over the world that have been afforded opportunities that they never would have, and moved around into positions that they never would have, and gotten college paid for, and their kids' college paid for, and gone on trips on our non-revenue discounts. And it's just the opportunities and things that FedEx has afforded people are unlimited. And, I'm in public relations. My job is not to sell our company, but I can tell you I have to a lot of people. I've gotten a lot of people employed with us. And I'm so grateful that I can share my excitement and joy that FedEx has brought to me, to other people, and get them on board as well. So it's been a blessing.
And didn't the last few years, he took like a 91% temporary pay cut, to make sure to help the company?
Yeah, he did.
Awesome.
That goes without saying. There's nothing you can really add to that. That speaks for itself,
right?
And to the person and leader he is.
You have a lot of responsibilities, with FedEx, and you always look like you're getting paid to enjoy yourself because you have so much pleasure with the work that you do. I know you're involved, with the Mid-South Air Show and do several other fun things too. Please tell a little bit about some of the more, fun, exciting parts of your job.
Yeah, I like to talk about the fun and exciting things that I do, but I also reiterate that there's a lot of very serious things too. So it's major meetings with governmental leadership, and then it's flyovers at air shows and a sponsorship of that. I was able to ship or work on the meetings with the first COVID shipment with Vice President Pence globally, the very first one ever. We got breast milk and formula to places that didn't have it where kids could have died because they didn't have a supply. So doing air shows and sponsoring the flyovers at the golf tournament, and things like that are a lot of fun. But it's just as equally important to do the meetings that count, and that make a difference. You can always entertain people, not just personally, but outside of work. And I'm just blessed that I'm able to do a little bit of both and be happy about both of those.
And I know a lot of the stuff that you post and stuff, it shows the fun stuff, but people don't see all the hard work behind it before you got to that point. But yeah, that's awesome. And you also, volunteered to work, in the hub to support your teammates too. So, I mean, you're very dedicated. And so that's awesome.
Yeah, I try to do that every year. Last year, they gave us a month period where we can volunteer. And I think I did 12 nights. Overnights, and I still had to work my day job, but they're the reason why we get our paychecks. And even though we get off holidays, they don't always. And we're all a team. They might be in the hub in their sweatpants, and I might be in a suit in a meeting, but our paychecks all come from our packages that we're moving. So I feel like we all should contribute in that way if we're able to. And I try to do that every year when it's offered to us to do that.
You're a very giving person in both your personal and business life. And you talked to the chairman of the social committee with the Junior League of Memphis and involved with Habitat with Humanity, which you talked about. It's obvious that, kids are important to you too. You work with people, the guys at FedEx Cares and Operation Warm. It includes giving, kids in elementary school shoes and socks and underwear. And you said, quote, "Every time I have the pleasure to serve on a day like this, my heart becomes full, but then also heavy thinking of all the things I've been blessed with, but sometimes fail to realize and need a slight reminder," unquote. I think we're all guilty of that sometimes, as bad as we think we have it sometimes when we really don't. We can't even imagine how truly bad other people actually do have it, especially like the things that you saw in the elementary school that day, right?
Right. Yeah, it's definitely eye-opening. I mean, they give you hugs and act like they're your best friend, and that they don't even realize that they don't have it because they're just used to that, and that's normal for them. So when you can do something as little as give somebody a coat or socks or a pair of shoes, and it feel like it's a World Series trophy, that it really means something to them, and they may not recognize it now, but at some point they will. And if we can do just a little bit of that, it makes such a huge difference. And, for me, it's so much more important to see the joy in their faces than it is about the code itself. Just because I know that they don't know any different. That's all they know. To come in the winter with no socks when it's freezing outside and wet and raining, and not even know that they need them. It's eye-opening for sure. So I'm very glad that FedEx has a program that supports those initiatives, and that, and we do it without any gratification. We just do it because it's what's right. And I'm grateful to be able to volunteer at some of those activities and give back a little bit.
Tina, you said, quote, "Inspiring others is where you'll find you're the most successful," unquote. I know you weren't referring to yourself, but it is what you do. How are you able to stay so positive and continue to, make other people smile, in unfortunately a negative world that we live in?
Like I said earlier, I mean, it's all in the way that you look at things. I mean, life is not where it all should be for any of us right now. I mean, the government is in chaos. The world is in chaos. There's shootings all the time. People have so much hate, it just takes a few of us that are positive and happy to try to spread that to other people. And it's not always easy. We all have our own difficulties and struggles and adversity that we face, but it's the way that you approach them. And, even smiling at somebody somewhere, they might be heartbroken, and your smile might change the trajectory of their day. So to me, we're about just recognizing that it's not that bad. We're here, our life is a gift, and each day that we're here to cherish that and, spread any kind of positivity, we should, because we're not guaranteed each day. So, it's more so just the way that you face things and how you treat your life, that other people may or may not notice, but at least you're doing your best to try.
The FedEx Rising Star Award, you were nominated by Lisa, is it Manuskin?
Manuskin, yep.
for the award, because of your work with her FedEx services team on the FedEx Express side and helping to get Bebe, the panda, safely from the Smithsonian Zoo in Washington, D.C. to China. And I know you got that text at 4:13 a.m. from Captain John Hunt, and you also got one from crew member Jamie Turner letting you know that Bebe, safely was in China with Carrot and Paul, and that had to make you smile. Being who you are, winning that award, it wasn't about you and your opinion. You said, quote, "The award is special, but the teamwork pin means the most," unquote. The word team, together everyone accomplishes more, is what's most important to you. And I can tell that you genuinely care about all the people that you work with, in Memphis, across the country, across the world. And you want other people to get their credit and them to succeed also.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you could get personally, and you hope sometimes you do. There's awards that I haven't gotten that I hope I do at some point, just because I know I've worked very hard for them. But at the end of the day, nobody can do anything that we do as a company by ourselves. There's going to be somebody that either helps you or touches you or stands alongside you or works directly with you. And it doesn't even matter what location they're in. But nobody, I mean, we can all get praised for things that we do personally, but without all of us collectively, we're not a team. And I take pride in working with great people that are able to accomplish so many different things all over the board, and be very, very successful at it. So for me, I mean, it's nice to have things individually, but when you do it as a team and people that you don't necessarily work with on a regular basis and you accomplish great things, it feels great.
It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and breast cancer is the second most common cancer among women. 2,300 men get breast cancer each year, but women are 100 more times likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer and account for 255,000 cases in the United States annually, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. You said, quote, "With all the chaos in the world today, a little encouragement goes a long way," unquote. If anyone needed encouragement, it was you back on, March 11th of 2000, when you went in for a routine annual mammogram. It was, 3 days later when you found out you got the bad news that you had breast cancer. And as horrible as that news was to get, 2 days after, COVID shut down the whole world. And you said, quote, "I was left to stay home pretty much alone, while also being forced to wait 4 months for elective surgery since I wasn't terminal. And although very optimistic, I'd kick its butt. I was a wreck thinking there was a possibility it could grow." And also having a son in his early 20s, talked about losing your mom at the age of 19. Those times were a bit uncertain, unquote. What was your biggest self-discovery or revelation after you were diagnosed?
The initial diagnosis, I have to admit, was very, very shocking, but it was incredibly scary, mainly because I didn't know what was going to happen and I had to wait. The biggest part was waiting. Nobody in my family had cancer before. I didn't know how it could spread. I didn't know the severity because I'd never had it before. So the uncertainty of the diagnosis itself scared the crap out of me. But when I finally let it sink in and realized, what, I'm here for a reason. They found it. They said it had been growing 5 to 7 years, but still it was very small. And the way in which it formed was almost miraculous, from what it could have been. I mean, I feel like that was all, in God's hands. And that's why that's why I'm here today to talk about it. And so I think just accepting the diagnosis for what it was and facing it head on and not being afraid, and letting people know that it's okay to get mammograms. I'd been getting them for 8 years and they never diagnosed it, even though it had been growing 5 to 7. I felt like I had a platform with a network of people that I knew to say that and say it with grace and, with a little bit of force to let people know, it might not be fun and it might be scary, but you could have it. And if you don't go get your checkups, you could miss it and you might not be standing here. So I tried to take that platform and use it as a positive thing for other people that might have been scared. And I know for certain it has, because I've gotten several messages from people that had never gotten them before. And a couple of people that had gotten diagnosed because they hadn't. And so, for me, if you can make a difference in one person's life and they can do the same for somebody else, it's a pattern that can only be a good one. So I'm grateful that I got it, that I was able to beat it. I'm proud of the way that I handled it, because it wasn't always the easiest, especially by myself. but I did it. And, I'm a testament to other people who might be scared that they can do it too. So to me, that's what counts most. And why I'm most proud of the journey that I had.
You mentioned your son, Jordan. I know that probably could not have been an easy conversation to have with him. Yeah. How did your breast cancer diagnosis affect him?
He's a strong kid. I mean, he's been through a lot. I mean, he saw a lot, through his life and adversity that he faced through sports, which a lot of people don't see. I mean, there's a lot of hardships and a lot of disappointments and a lot of grief and a lot of anger. It's the same emotions that you get when you go through something like this. They're just different ways of dealing with it and different scenarios. But I think he tried to be strong for me. I mean, he cried, I cried, we both did. It's one of those things where we both knew that it was something that we were going to face. And just like the other hardships we've had in our life, if you keep faith first and believe that you can get through something, you do. And so that's kind of how we went through the journey. And I'm grateful to have him. I know he's grateful that I'm still here because of it. And I'm just proud to say that we did it together, even though he wasn't with me all the time, because I needed him more than I ever did before.
I know you've been through some surgeries over the last 2.5 years, and you've also had radiation. What are some of the different surgeries that you've had, and how did you handle those radiation treatments?
So I first had a lumpectomy, which was to remove the cancer cells from my left breast. There was some botched portions of that, so I had to have two corrective surgeries after that. One of them was there was an infection that was so bad it almost led to fluid in my lungs, and I could have died from it. So that was very scary. My left arm was almost paralyzed, felt like I had pricks in it. And I kept telling the doctor something is not right, which led to another surgery. And anyway, got rid of all that. So I had the lumpectomy, two corrective surgeries. And then last year I had a sinus surgery. And then most recently, last week, I had a lobectomy in my thyroid, which they had thought was cancerous before my breast cancer, and it ended up not being. But then they tested again after this surgery when I just had it removed, and I found out 2 days ago that it was benign also. So I'm grateful for that. But having never had any surgery at all, other than when I had my C-section with my son in '95, the last 2 years I've had 5 surgeries that were all pretty severe. So I'm just grateful to be here and healthy, and hopefully I'm done with those, but if not, I'll take the rest of them like I did the ones I've just had, and, keep on trucking, because that's, I'm here and I'm healthy, and I'm proud to say that I am, and handle it the best way I can.
You said, quote, "Thanks for standing beside me while I continue to fight with all those who follow me. We are never alone," unquote. Tina, you've had a lot of people in your corner over the last few years as you've gone through this, your friends, your family, your FedEx family. I'm sure there's been doctors and nurses, and just like you mentioned, there's been people that you don't even know that have reached out to you to give you support. How important has that been for you?
I can't even tell you the weight of that. I mean, the support of all of those people it's priceless. I mean, like I said, with work, teamwork, you can't do it by yourself. And when you go through something as scary as cancer, I mean, it's one of those things where without support systems and people to lean on, even when they don't know it, even just a phone call of encouragement, it's priceless. You can never thank people enough for it. I don't think they'll ever know how much it means, but I can tell you it means the world. And it definitely has to me.
John Neal said of you, quote, "Strength, physical, mental, and spiritual. Our next honoree of 22, Tina Rodgers, is strength. Diagnosed during the infancy stages of COVID. She showed cancer what strength was all about," unquote. That's powerful. How did the positive, enthusiastic life that you led before your breast cancer diagnosis help you over the last 2.5 years?
I don't think it is any different than I lived before I had it. I mean, I've always tried to be someone that encouraged. I mean, I used to use my Facebook every day just for a platform to post something positive, because you never know what somebody is going through, and you never know what your words may say to touch someone in whatever way. And it may be one person, it may be 10 people, but I've gotten messages for years on, privately for things that I'll post that, like, you don't know how much I needed to hear that. And I've lived my life that way and mainly because of the foundation that my parents laid for me, and our foundation on faith and trying to encourage and, give support and give back. And, that kind of thing was ingrained in me in an early age, and it's never went away. So cancer or not, I know that it gave a little bit more force behind that, because I knew the severity of the disease that I was given and how it could have turned out. But I think my attitude on life in general, and the way I like to live it, has really not changed very much. It just is a little more substantial now that I know that I was granted life and more days when I didn't have to be.
The honoree that John Neal was referring to was the 2022 Courage Through Cancer honoree, in which you were the first honoree for 2022. And you said, quote, "Courage Through Cancer celebration was amazing. From the survivors to the honorees to those who will ever stand as warriors upstairs to the St. Jude honorees, the stories were priceless and ones that will never be forgotten," unquote. Tell us a little bit more about that special night and, the role that, John Neal, Courtney Wright Neal, and their boys have meant to you, and the year-round cause that they're part of.
Yeah, so we have a gala on November 5th where I'll be recognized as 2022 honoree alongside many other deserving heroes and men and women, which I'm incredibly grateful about. But John and Courtney have a set of twins, and John had a best friend from college, and one of his sons and his best friend both underwent cancer at the same time, and so they started this charity, Courage Through Cancer, because of the best friend and the son. We have a 5K every year. We have a golf tournament every year, and then we have the gala. But there's also fundraising through the rest of the year, and every single ounce of dollars and money that's raised goes towards St. Jude and West, and most recently Baptist, for a new study that they're doing for a specific cell that is cancerous. So, it's meant a lot to so many people, the funds that it's raised to support those great organizations, St. Jude West and now Baptist, are priceless. I mean, we'll continue to do the work. We'll continue to put in the time. Our volunteers will continue to put in the volunteer hours. And even before I was asked to be an honoree, I was helping volunteer, and I will continue to do that as long as I can. And I'm grateful that there's such a charity such as this that helps recognize people that have gone through the battles, and some are standing here to talk about it and some not so lucky. But either way, the support is endless, and I'm super grateful to be part of it.
Lori Loper Miller said, quote, "My amazing friend Tina Rodgers is bubbly, funny, caring, and gracious, and you would never know that she's been battling cancer. She is one of our 2022 honorees for Courage Through Cancer. I'm so blessed to be involved in CTC and able to meet such warriors," unquote. I know I mentioned it before, but I believe it's so important that I'm going to mention it again. Lisa just talked about, how someone would never know that you're battling cancer. And, that has to coincide with having your head in the right place. You're surrounded by the right people and having such a positive and optimistic attitude towards beating it.
Yeah. I mean, again, life is how you take it and what you make of it. I mean, you can choose to be negative and sad and angry and bitter and for whatever happens to you, or you can choose to put your smiling face on and realize that there's a lot of people that have it worse than you, even on your worst days. And, it's how you treat other people and how you give back, and the amount of spirit that you show and the encouragement that you give to others, even when you don't feel your best. It obviously turns your day around too. So, I mean, for me, it's just about living life the best way you can with the days that you have, and making sure you make them count, and being a blessing and blessing others. And, I think that's all you can do with the life you're given. And if you're not, you're shorting yourself. So that's what I try to do.
My sister was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer, back in late 2018, and she ended up having, several chemotherapy sessions and had surgery in 2019. Thankfully, they got it all and did reconstructive surgery, and there hasn't been any problems since that time. Before that, I knew very little about breast cancer personally, and you were featured on the cover of FedEx homepage for the National Cancer Survivors Day. Story as a survivor. Something you shared in what's called a survivor's message is something I did not know. You said, quote, "They told me it had been growing," you just mentioned this, "for 5 to 7 years, but it wasn't detective. People could be going through something like this and have no clue. Cancer doesn't discriminate. It picks whoever it wants to," unquote. You started getting mammograms I believe before even the recommended age, and they never saw that. And I guess that one thing that I guess that you've probably been told this now, because I'm sure that you probably questioned it. What's the reason why that they were not able to detect it earlier, especially in your case where it had been growing for so long?
That's a question I'll never know the answer to, and I don't think I'll ever get it. I mean, our insurance changed in '99 at the very end. We do our elections in October through the 1st of November. And for the first time, I had to see all new doctors. First time I got a mammogram in this location. First time I saw a gynecologist, and with the new plan that we had. And, the thyroid issue came up with the first gynecologist appointment. The breast cancer came up with the next mammogram that I had. And, I'd been doing everything right. I exercise, I eat right, I try to stay in shape. And, when I did get the mammogram and then I found out that I had it and they told me, the length of time that it had been growing, that's the first question I asked. I was like, if it's been growing 5 to 7 years, then why is this the first time I'm hearing about it? And why did nobody tell me? I can't imagine why that is. And I still don't know the answer. And they couldn't answer it because obviously it's not the same doctor and they don't know what that doctor sees or what he diagnoses. But I can tell you that it should have been because if it was, they go away and come back. So I don't know that I'll ever know that answer. And I wish I did. It might make me feel a little bit better that maybe it'll come back and it was something that they maybe told me the wrong thing. I don't know. But all I know is it's gone and there's nothing I can do to worry about it anymore. I'm just grateful to be healthy, and whatever happened or didn't, I can't stress over that. I just got to recognize that I got it and I'm healthy and it's gone, and just keep on moving forward.
I'm a big believer in God and prayer. And I believe that, it's hard to sometimes imagine that everything happens for a reason. I know people say that, but I think that, there are so many things that happen in the way the world is supposed to work. It's a synchronicity. And the fact that you switched doctors, how that happened, thank goodness that happened.
Absolutely.
Because if you had stayed with that other doctor because of what happened before, it might not have even been diagnosed at all because they weren't looking at it the right way or carefully.
You're right. And I was annoyed that I had to go, I'd been seeing these doctors since we lived in Memphis, the same ones. And, you just get used to the same routine and it's easy and convenient and they know you and they know about your family. And, you establish relationships with these people that you see, even if it's just on an annual basis. Cause I never get sick and I never go to the doctor except for my annual appointments that I have to. And, so yeah, it definitely was a blessing. It was an annoying one at the time, but, in hindsight, I wouldn't have, I may not be standing here if I didn't do that. So I'm very, very grateful. And, it's cost me a lot more money than I would have ever imagined me spending on things that I never had to pay for before. But you know what, if that's what it takes to be healthy, I'm okay with that. So yeah, God is good all the time. So this time is no different.
Right. It's very apparent, from your situation, obviously having mammograms done earlier rather than later is extremely important. And you said, quote, this biannual mammogram and sonogram I have to do today is with a lot more peace than what's meant to be is always will be. And with the good Lord always holding my hand, guiding me, there's no doubt I'm cancer free forever. I have faith. It's got me here and I know it'll carry me the rest of the way. Suck it, cancer. I won. I win. Here goes all y'all PSA for the day. Ladies, get your mammograms. It spared my life and can spare yours too, unquote. Your message is very clear. Which is what women must do is make it a very high priority, to do this regularly. And thank goodness you did. And, it wasn't, 100%, it wasn't your time to go. And you have a lot more life to live.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm like I said, I'm grateful for every day, every minute, all the people that I get to meet and encounter, everybody that blessed me, prayed for me, all the people that I've helped in whatever way. There obviously was a reason for that. And, I feel like it all comes full circle. You do good, it comes back to you. You do bad, I can't say that the same. I can say the same thing for that. So, I'm incredibly blessed for, all the life that I've had, all the life that I have left, all the people that have supported me before and after and will forever. And I'm just grateful to be here and happy and healthy and, with an amazing son and new home and all things good. So I'm blessed.
And to say it one more time because of the importance of it, you said, quote, I am more so ever grateful that God gave me a journey I was equipped to beat when I never thought or dreamed I'd be a part of. But what I'm glad to have encountered is my story I shared along the way has led to many people I knew and didn't to go get mammograms and to not be afraid if they got the news that they didn't want to hear, unquote. I think that pretty much says it all right there. I'm a big believer that as hard as it is sometimes that, God gives us exactly what he knows that we can handle,
Yep.
and as horrible as that news was initially for you, because of the effect that you've had, on so many during this battle, you're right where you're supposed to be, aren't you?
Yep, I am. And I have no complaints. I mean, I've said on this, I think we've been on the phone for almost an hour. I've said it a million times. I mean, God gave it to me because he knew I was strong enough to beat it. I did. I'm healthy. I'm alive. I'm here, and I'm encouraged other people to get mammograms. I know that it's helped several people that have sent me private messages or called or text. And, we've got one life to live our best. And I'm just grateful that I'm here to continue that as long as I'm able to. So, yeah, I mean, I can't complain about anything, but just be grateful for life and all it has to afford me that's in the next years and years to come, as long as I'm here.
That brings us to present day. You're in the prize ring boxing in a heavyweight title match, which is 12 rounds. What round would you be in right now in this fight of yours?
Well, I mean, I just turned 48, so I feel like I'm in round 6. Half my life gone and half the rest to come. I told myself when I was little, and we used to go sit in nursing homes, that I was going to live to be 100. I just turned 48, so I'm in round 6 with 6 more to go. I'm halfway there, and I'm not quitting till it's quitting time, and I don't see that anytime soon. So I'm round 6 and 6 more, 6 more in the battle.
Awesome. Keep fighting.
Yep.
You said of your dad, quote, "Happy birthday to you, Dad. The one who serves daily, gives with everything he has, loves with his whole heart, sees the good in others who may not always see that in him or themselves, and who has sacrificed his whole life to make the lives those who surround him better. Thank you for your not so funny, dumb jokes, for being my rock when I've been weak more times than I can count, for sending me uplifting scriptures daily, and for walking the walk and talking the talk and always leading by example. Every day you live and you give love and make others' days brighter. I'm so thankful God gave me you. I couldn't ask for a more gracious and loving dad." Tell us a little bit more about him.
Well, like I told you from the beginning, I mean, he's been a preacher my whole life. We didn't have a lot growing up. We had a house full of love and not a lot of tangible things, and it really didn't matter. And we served and followed God's lead and brought us down to the South. And I feel like the foundation that he's laid for my family and for everybody that he surrounds has just made all of our lives better. So, I mean, you read what I said. There's not really much more that I can say. He's an incredible leader and father and provider, and he's I couldn't ask for a better example to follow my life behind.
Quote, "He's the king of my hill, watchdog, best friend, cuddler, my dude," unquote. Being the huge dog lover that I am, I have to hear a little bit more about Wrigley.
Wrigley. Yeah, he's my little dude. He's a golden doodle. That's why I call him my dude. Everybody doesn't understand that, but it's very easy when you know what breed he is. He's a golden doodle. So he's my DOOD. But he actually, my son got him. My ex-husband went and picked him up from Pennsylvania when my son was in spring training in Florida with the Braves. And my son had a girlfriend at the time that had a dog just like him, and my son fell in love with him. So we got Wrigley. Well, when he got back to go to spring training the next year, he wasn't dating this girl and didn't have somebody to help watch him while he was traveling around playing baseball. So fortunately for me, I got him in March of 2020, which was just like a week or two before I got breast cancer. And other than when I travel and have to go out of town for certain things, he's been with me ever since. So he's my dude now, even though he's my grand dude. But he's a joy. I mean, he just makes my days happy and sits on my lap and licks my face when I'm sad. And yeah, he's a little gem, and he's been a blessing to me. So I'm thankful for Wrigley.
Talk about synchronicity and things happening in the time they're supposed to happen. I mean, gosh, you got him in March of 2020. What happened there? Oh my gosh. I mean, definitely meant to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he knows it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's great.
You have what I can tell is a pretty special, significant other in your life, Stephen Chadwick. I see from all your posts and pictures together how happy you guys are, the traveling together, and how he's been there for you and with you in good times and bad. Tell us a little bit about Stephen.
It's still relatively new. I mean, he's, I feel like God places people in your life when they're meant to. And, I was with my ex-husband my whole life and never really dated outside of that much, and was, kind of trying to get my feet wet. Well, COVID happened and cancer happened, and I couldn't really do any of that. So I met Stephen shortly after I could. And yeah, we've been together for about 6 months. He's a blessing, and took me to my appointment when I had to have surgery. And again, it's very new, but I'm blessed to have him in my life, and he's very supportive. And God has plans for us and for both of us together and separately. And we'll see how it goes. But right now, it's going well, and he's wonderful. So I'm blessed.
That's so great.
He hasn't got to meet him yet, so that's the next.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Very
you'll meet
cool.
him at Gala on the 5th, so that'll be nice.
Jordan Taylor Rodgers. This is a young man who back in April 1st of 2016, while playing baseball in the University of Tennessee, had 8 RBIs and became the third ball to hit for the cycle in Tennessee baseball history. And if you don't know much about baseball, I can tell you those stats are unbelievable and extremely rare for that to happen. A few of the good things that you said about him are, quote, "When God gave me a son, he couldn't have done a better job and knew exactly who he was and what he'd become. And that is a blessing to all he sees and meets and encounters," unquote. You also said, quote, "He's always been a hero to me, fighting adversity more times than I ever could have. And whatever he set out to do, he has," unquote. After his career was over at UT and he cleans out his locker, he's headed out for the last time, goes out to the stadium parking lot, he hands you a baseball. And it said on there, he wrote, quote, "To Mom, my number one fan, role model, and constant rock. Thanks for everything, Jordan," unquote. I'm sure you probably cried when he gave that baseball to you, appropriately if you did. And tell us about the pretty new and exciting career that he started. He beat out 249 other applicants, went through 5 interviews to get there, and a little bit about the special bond that y'all share together.
Yeah, I mean, he had a stab at professional baseball, played in the minors for a few years, was on a pretty good path to keep promoting up. And then COVID happened, like it did to so many. And after being pushed back a couple of times and realizing that they make no money in the minor leagues, which most people don't recognize, he said, if I land a job that I feel like God put in my lap, I'm going to take it. So he actually had 6 interviews, beat out a lady that had 13 years of experience. And he's, been a leader in his company ever since he started, which doesn't surprise me a bit because, his work ethic that he had, even though he'd never had a professional job. I mean, being an athlete and working 90 hours a week, getting paid $1,000 or $1,100 a month and just busting your tail. I mean, I knew whatever he did, he would, be incredibly great at. He still coaches a team and does private lessons, and he'll never be out of baseball. But when that job came into his path, it was one that he felt like may not come back again. And so he had to weigh out the options of baseball or to, continue baseball or to take the job. And I think he made the best decision for himself. He just bought a house in Nashville. He's doing great, has a great network of friends, and, very connected there. And, I'm just proud of him, and everything that he's ever set out to do, he's done. And this time is no exception. So he's a great kid, and been through a lot with me, together and separate from my ex-husband, and just very proud to call him my son.
What are the most important lessons that you've learned in your life?
Just to be grateful, to give thanks, never take anything for granted, to tell the people you love them. Time's not guaranteed. And just to be good people. It's easy to be good. It's easy to be kind. It's free. And it's a lot easier than the alternative. It takes a lot less of your time to be angry, or a lot more of your time to be angry than it does to be happy. So, to me, it's just, live happy. You only have one, and make it count while you're here.
I mentioned when we first started that you have an online boutique called Rockin' Closet. How can people find it online and check it out if they'd like to?
I have a Facebook page, Rockin' Closet. I have an Instagram at Rockin' Closet. There's no G. But really just to go to my website, www.rockincloset.com, no G in rockin'. We ship fast and free, usually here in a day or two. We have small to plus sizes. We have some kids items. We should sell jeans, dresses, rompers, hats, athleisure wear, swimwear, everything you see on my website we have. And it's free shipping and free return. So if you don't like it, you can send it back free, and something for everybody, and a lot of cute transitional pieces that you can wear all year. And we restock every week. So it's a great place to get some affordable clothes if you're in the need.
You know, what I'm about to say to you, you already know, and I'm sure everyone close to you already knows, but I'm going to say it anyway. There are several words that have been used today. You're a fighter, you're a survivor, you're a warrior, you're a very determined person. You have a ton of courage and perseverance, and you're a blessing to, many people that know you and get to spend time with you, including your family, your friends, and your FedEx team. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story today, because it's a great story. And it's very inspiring. And I know that there's people that are going to take a lot from that. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
No, I appreciate you having me. You asked me a while back, and our schedules didn't coordinate very well for a while, but life happens, and you got to roll with that. So I'm grateful that you asked me to be on, and I don't know what people will take away from this, but I hope there's a little bit of good out of it. And if it's not because we didn't give the effort to do that. So I appreciate your time and you talking to people like me and other people that, may have some impact on somebody somewhere. And I think it's a good thing that you're doing. And I'm honored that you asked me to play a small role in it. So thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. Those are very nice words. Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yep.
You take care. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
You too.
All right. Bye.